Welcome to the Worth Listening podcast, where we focus on having positive and productive conversations around money. I'm your host, Lauren, a 4-time Olympian and certified financial planner. On this show, my guests share their money stories. Everyone has a unique story and experiences both wins and losses when it comes to money. My intent is to give listeners something they can relate to, something that builds their courage to be open and take control of their own money story. When I'm not creating a great show for my listeners, I'm running my company, Worth Winning, where I help individuals and families organize their finances. Check us out at worth-winning.com. All right, now on with the show. Welcome to the final episode in 2020. I hope you have enjoyed listening to the podcast all year long. I have enjoyed bringing it to you all. For those that don't know, this is a passion project for me. I mention my business occasionally, but I'm not hardcore selling here because what this podcast is about is helping people better organize their finances, feel more comfortable talking about their finances. And that's a thing that is near and dear to my heart because I started out not with a very open and honest relationship with money. And I'll be honest, I'm a certified financial planner. I'm helping other people organize their finances, but I don't have it all perfect. I'm still dealing with my own money emotions because money is emotional. So organized finances is one part of the process, but dealing with the emotions around money and what you think about money and earning and value and cost, all these things, there's something that we're all going to be working on constantly over time and continuing to progress in. As an athlete, of course, I am very coachable. So if you have suggestions for the podcast, if you want to see other themes, there's topics that you want to talk about, you have guests that you want to come on the show, please always do share with us. From my point of view, this is me serving my community by doing this podcast. It is a labor of love. It is not something that comes natural to me, chitting and chatting week in and week out and coming up with new things to talk about. But I think it's so important and it's been so helpful for me to hear the stories of others so I can continue to think outside the box about how to reach my own full potential. So as we shut down, this is going to be a short episode because I feel like this is a time period where we all need to be turning internally and doing the hard work on our own, but we need sometimes some ideas to be able to do so. So this last episode is goal setting and planning because we are right around the corner from 2021. New year, a new time frame. We get to hit the reset button. And one thing I want to remind us too is that while a new year is coming, and that is a reason that a lot of us hit the reset button and make meaningful changes to our lives, that every day that you wake up is a chance to hit that reset button. It doesn't have to be Monday. It doesn't have to be the first of the month. It doesn't have to be a new year, new decade, all those sorts of things. We hinge a lot of our change and our behavior around trying to get that fresh start. But every morning that you wake up, you've been given another chance and you can start to make meaningful change in your life at that point going forward. So what I want to encourage you all to do is start planning for 2021. Do it today, do it tomorrow, do it over the next couple of days, but don't let 2021 creep up and you haven't created any action items to change the trajectory for how you want things to go in 2021. So if I could just offer a few pieces of advice, the first one is leave wiggle room in your budget. So COVID-19 threw a lot of people's budget off the rails. It also created an opportunity for a lot of people to save when they wouldn't have otherwise had the opportunity to do so, whether that was student loan payments that they didn't have to make or less spending because they were eating out, and they gave them a time to really look at their spending and align their spending with their values, realizing that, not going out was not the end of the world and that maybe they didn't need to be spending as much money going out. They saw all this money in their account. They're just like, gosh, where is it coming from? And then they realized how much they were spending going out and the difference in staying in. So how do you want the world opens up tomorrow and everything is back to quote unquote normal? What do you want to do differently at the point at which the go button is on and we're free to walk around mask free and live a life maybe more similar to the one we previously had? We don't want it to be the same. I don't think anybody wants the same life that they had pre-COVID. While COVID has kind of, like I said, changed some things for us, We've got to get planning on how we want to change things for ourselves. Budget wise, like I said, money is a tool that is going to help you live the life you want. So make sure that you put some wiggle room in that budget. I always talk about the emergency fund, but you need some space in case there's a temporary business shutdown, either at the place that you work for or the company that you're running. If there's less sales coming in because there's less cash flow because people are having to stay at home. If people are absent due to illness or you become ill and you have to take a leave of absence. All of these things became very real emergencies in people's lives this year that have always been something that we've been up against, but now more than ever, we're aware. I'd also encourage you to stay connected to others. So I have a hard time keeping up with the news because I don't like to watch the news. I feel like it's very negative and that I'm being fed particular messages, that I'm not actually just being fed facts. So I'm a kind of anti-news person. However, I do know that it's valuable to stay connected to what's going on in the world. And so I've had to try to challenge myself to think outside the box on how I want to be connected to others and how I want to gather information and share information with others. So as an example, this podcast is a way that I share with others what's going on in people's lives. What do I think about finances, how to plan for 2021, et cetera. So you still have various media outlets that you can take advantage of and be connected with others in addition to actually being connected to people. And the relevance there is that we all need to be gathering information. In addition to the actual connection that is important for our well-being, our health, and social well-being, we need to be gathering information constantly. And the best way to gather information is to be in conversation with others. Grants and things like that I've been made aware of that exist. I was recently in Hawaii and I learned about the residents here getting a $500 support from the government to go out and spend and support local businesses. What a really cool thing that exists. And I realized, like, I don't know if anything like that has come out in Texas. Well, you got to be connected to others. You got to be connected to where others who have valuable information like that can help you better understand. So stay connected. That's thing number 2. And then the third thing is be willing to adapt. If nothing else, 2020 should remind us about the skill of being adaptable. Those who are not able to adapt maybe experience failure in a way that they didn't necessarily have to because they could not think quickly enough about how to adapt or were not willing at all to adapt. We've got to be able to pivot at a moment's notice in order to keep going. That is a part of survival. It's not always fun. It's not always easy. Change is just one of those things that we know it's good for us, even though it does not feel good. And we've got to be first willing to adapt and then open to the various ways that we can adapt and do things new and different and improve. So those are my 3 tips. Be willing to adapt, stay connected, and leave some wiggle room in your budget. So now you've got to get to planning. All right. So what do you hope to do next year? If you listened to last week's episode on reflection, you should have some ideas about things that did not go well and did go well for you in 2020. And now that you know what happened and you've kind of recorded and documented the events of 2020, both good and bad, you can look at those things and say, what do I want to carry over into 2021? What do I want to improve on heading into 2021? And it should help you answer the question of what do you hope to do next year? Because that's really what your goals are, what your hopes and your dreams and your aspirations are. Same thing as goals. So as an example, in year 1 with this podcast, we were weekly. We had guests come on and they shared their story for about an hour. And then I reevaluated at the end of that year. And I said, this was a bit much. Like coming up with something every single week, finding a person to talk to every week, finding time to connect the 2 schedules every week was a lot. So in year 2, we went to every other week and we shortened the episodes to about 30 minutes. I also started to share my story in addition to having guests on in I don't know what year it was, but year 2, that's what it was. Well, that was last year, I guess, because this year is the 3rd year and we've been doing every other month and we've been doing themes. So if I did not take a moment, reflect on what I was doing, what was working and what wasn't working with what I was doing, and then what did I want to continue to accomplish, we wouldn't have 3 years of a podcast, guys. You cannot be what you cannot see, so you need to write it down and make it real. as it pertains to whatever your goals are. So they may not be physical goals. I want to own a cup. That's a thing that you can hold on to, but you need to write down so that you can see and you can hold that piece of paper up and say, this is what I want to do. We need examples of what it looks like, which means we need those action items to be able to say, okay, I can see this goal now on paper. I now have examples of what it looks like to do this thing. It's not all in my head, and now I can bring it to fruition. As you think about what you want to do in 2021, what are your goals? What are you planning to accomplish? Also think about, what is your superpower? A couple episodes I talked about, like, what is your purpose? If you have not clearly defined what your purpose is, what you're here and uniquely designed to do to contribute to society, think of it from a different perspective, because we all have a reason. We all have a purpose. So I ask you, what is your superpower? How can that superpower help someone else? And how can that superpower help you? And so as we think about superpowers too, one thing I want to remind us is that it is okay to be grateful and be proud of your superpowers. It is also okay to charge money for things that are valuable to others. I think sometimes we do so much of creating the story of being benevolent and helping and sharing and putting a purpose ahead of all, that we forget that when something is valuable, that it can be paid for. It can be paid for in different ways too. This is not always just about money, but that others need to extend appreciation or acknowledgement of your value. And this is a money podcast. So getting paid is okay. It is all right to make money. It is okay to make more money. It is okay to make more money than you need. I think so often we get messages of things like that, and we're afraid to really lean into our gift, or we're leaning into our gift to our own detriment. All of our gifts are valuable, and sometimes we need to demand that people acknowledge that value by paying for whatever service or value we are providing. A lot of what I hear is, I want to help others. I want to make a meaningful difference in the lives of others. Well, how can you best help others if you don't have enough to help them? You don't have the resources to be able to help them. Your gift may be one thing that you can use to help others, but if someone else that can afford to pay for your gift pays you and you can accumulate money, guess how many more people you can help? Making money is not a bad thing. And this is something I've had to deal with, learn, reiterate over and over. I am one of the cheapest financial planners in the industry, not because I'm not dope at my work, but because I really want to make sure that I'm making financial planning accessible to others. And I'm constantly giving myself the talk of, it's okay to raise my prices. It's okay for some people to say that this price is too high, that they don't want to pay it. They have to have their own journey to evolve to a place where this thing is valuable, or they can go find that thing somewhere else, or they can invest time and money and energy themselves to get that education. It's not an angry or a upset sort of thing to say that you can't serve everyone. There's 75 million millennials. That's kind of my target market, the 20s and 30s. My oldest client's like 45. There are 75 million millennials, though, is my point. I can't serve 75 million people. I am a one-woman show with 2 part-time employees. There are some people out there that are for me, and there are some people out there that I need to refer to others, and there are some people out there that do not want the help of a certified financial planner. What is your gift? And like I said, whether you're an employee of a company, you still have a gift. It's not about being an entrepreneur either. So I don't want to, create that narrative in what I'm saying. Is that we all have a gift, that we are all valuable. And even as an employee, like I said, asking your employer for a raise, a promotion, not being afraid to start looking for another job if you feel like that employer does not see your value and want to compensate you accordingly for that value. So as we look and we start to turn internal for the next few days, and we start to plan, we start to write down the things that we want to achieve, we start to write down the action items to achieve those things. Know that it is okay to hold strong on your values, that it's okay not to be sure what your purpose is just yet, to kind of lean into the superpower you have and continue to do some research into how that superpower can help you continue to move forward, and that it is okay to earn money. Let's go and start planning for 2021. I can't wait to hear all the things you want to achieve. If you want to send those in, I'm happy to hear them. The email is podcast@worth-listening.com. Please do send over what you're working on, what you hope to achieve in 2021, the action items, not just what you're going to do or what you want to do, but the action items that are going to help you get there. And let's make 2021 our best year yet. Happy New Year, and I can't wait to talk to you in 2021.